Hey, Ral, if you're digging a hole in the wrong place, it doesn't matter how far you've dug.
It's still the wrong hole.
Strap yourself in for Keeping It Real with Jac Ral.
Welcome back, keepers. This is another episode of Keeping It Real with Jac and Ral. I'm Jac Phillips and you are?
Gabrielle Dolan.
Also known as?
Ral.
Ral.
Genius. Legend. All those dickheads.
True.
Dickhead, I mean.
You're not a dickhead.
No, I'm not. This episode, we think, is a very good one. Well, we think all our episodes are a good one. This is about embracing sunk cost fallacy. Now,
say that again.
Embracing sunk cost
fallacy.
You sort of got to say that slow,
Yeah,
really.
you do.
And a lot of you might be going, what is this sunk cost fallacy you
I
talk
reckon
about?
Anyone working in the financial services might understand what sunk cost is, but the fallacy.
Yes,
and
the
this is where
fallacy.
it gets interesting.
So sunk cost is a financial term.
Correct.
And the financial term is a sunk cost is a past expenditure that cannot be recovered. So it's already spent. So it becomes irrelevant to any future decisions.
Okay.
So, for example, you might have been investing in a project or in a new system or building a website or whatever, and then you've gone, actually, this no longer we no longer need this, and people go,
apply.
but we've already spent X amount of money, we should continue. So the financial thing is that X amount of money is already spent. It's sunk. So you should not be making the decision based on what has already been spent
for the future.
So that's the financial term. But the embracing the sunk cost fallacy,
That's an interesting one.
moves over to not only money spent, but where our time and energy has been spent as well.
Particularly when it's clear that staying invested in time, money or energy is no longer the best move.
Yes.
So that's where the fallacy piece comes in.
And that's where our little metaphors of digging the wrong hole comes in.
But I like this topic and this concept, and particularly for us in keeping it real, because it forces people to confront some uncomfortable truths, right? Like just because you spent a long time doing something doesn't mean it's right for you.
Yes. And it can be really hard to stop because it's the sunk cost fallacy. And it's almost a cognitive bias to go, and some people can't get their head around this and go, why would you stop when you've invested so much time?
And I reckon a lot of this comes from the way we're raised, yeah? So I remember my mother saying, no, you will finish your meal before you leave the dining table.
Yeah.
as a loose example. Or, no, you've started this. We're going to keep going with your karate lessons because I've already paid for those up front.
That's a great example.
So you can see how it becomes a mindset.
Yeah.
And I've got a friend and her husband very much is, oh, no, we've committed to this now. And she's saying, but it doesn't make any sense. And he says, no, but we've made the commitment and we're not quitters. We're going to finish this. Yeah. Yet it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, if it's something you no longer want to do. Did you have to, we weren't allowed to leave the table till we'd eaten all our vegetables.
And I hated meat, and we were major meat eaters, carnivores in New Zealand. It was meat, breakfast, lunch and dinner. And I used to sit there for hours with tears streaming down my face saying, I can't eat this meat. I hated it. And a father saying, you will not leave the table till you finished your meat. And in the end, Mum used to say, oh, for God's sake.
I know, I used to
leave the table. You don't have
peas.
to eat it.
Well, I really like peas now. I used to chew them up and stick them in my cheek. And then go, I need to go to the toilet.
And spit them out into the toilet.
And the other thing I learnt really quickly is sit next to Dad. And Dad would take stuff off my plate when Mum was looking, especially pumpkin. I think Dad really liked pumpkin and I didn't like pumpkin either. Now I love pumpkin.
Back to embracing sunk cost fallacy.
Sorry, I digress.
So we understand what the concept is. We understand sunk cost is a financial term. The fallacy applies to time, money and effort spent from people and can apply to many things. So some of the areas for our keepers who are listening, and this might be sort of, making them think, oh, yeah, hang on, this could apply to me. Staying in a job too long.
Yeah.
Now, that's a sunk cost fallacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
We often stay in jobs for way too long we don't like. We could even say we might even hate them because, oh, look, I've been here for 10 years. I've done all this great work and I've sort of, made all these great relationships. I can't just throw that away.
Or you know what I find sometimes at work is people have maybe set a goal where they want to be this certain position.
Yep.
So I want to, it's almost like I want the corner office.
Yeah.
And they're getting very, very close to
that.
the corner office.
Yeah.
But if the corner office is no longer what you want, don't
Or
stay.
wanting you.
Yeah, or wanting you. Don't stay just because you're close. I mean, and literally it was like if you're digging the wrong hole.
Yeah, that's right.
You're still in the wrong
hole.
hole.
That's right.
There's another metaphor, analogy I read too around this, and it sort of relates, I guess, to the corporate ladder. If you're climbing the ladder, but then realise the ladder's on the wrong wall.
Yeah.
Continuing climbing that ladder is not good for you.
It's not going to help you achieve what you need to
but
achieve.
what we tend to do is, but we're so close to the top.
Yeah.
Like if you realise the ladder's on the wrong wall, that's run
right.
with that metaphor for a while, but you've only gone up 1 or 2 rungs, you sort of go, oh no, I'm moving.
No issue.
It's when you've gone up 10 rungs and there's only 1 or 2 left, that's when the sunk cost fallacy, but I'm so close. It was like, but you're not on the right wall anymore. You're not on the right wall.
It's not the way. So keeping it real means admitting that the time spent doesn't justify your future happiness, yeah? Or unhappiness, I should say. It doesn't justify your future unhappiness. Just because you've spent all this time and you're miserable in the role doesn't mean to say you should stay in the role just because you've spent the time.
Yeah.
And so it's braver to walk away than it is to keep investing in a situation that actually is draining you or isn't right for you. And I talk about this a lot with my clients because there's also opportunity cost in sunk fallacy.
Yeah.
Yeah? In the sunk cost fallacy, in the fact that the longer you are spending doing something that is making you unhappy or not helping you achieve what you need to achieve just because you've always done it or because you've built up time in it means that you're actually missing out on other opportunities and it's taking you longer to actually see that.
Yeah.
So that can't be a good thing.
No, it can't be a good thing. And I think it's sort of knowing it can't be a good thing. But again, why this is such a thing is it's hard to recognise.
Yeah.
Like it's some people would be going, no, but it doesn't make sense to walk away because I have spent all that time and effort and money. And we're going, but it's a sunk cost fallacy.
Which is why you need somebody smart to listen to, like Jac Ral, keeping it real, a great coach or advisor or a great mate that can say, hang on a minute, yes, you might have spent all that time, but is it getting you to where you want to be? Or are you happier because of that? Or what is holding you back? And it'll be courage for sure, because again, it's braver to walk away than keep investing in a situation that's actually not doing you any good.
I just thought of a personal example then because over the years I have invested a lot of time and energy into increasing my speaking gigs overseas, especially America, to the point where I've invested thousands of dollars in a visa to work in America.
Yeah.
And I recently made the decision, I don't think that's what I want to do anymore.
Wow.
So the temptation could be, but you've actually spent quite a lot of money and time and effort getting to that point, and you're probably without too much more time and effort could make it a reality. But I'm thinking, no, I actually don't want to.
Because things have changed.
Things have changed.
So I think that's really important in this embracing sunk cost fallacy. Things do change.
Yeah.
They will change. And if we're not flexible and open enough to things changing, then we will continue to sink costs into something that actually isn't serving us.
Yes.
Whereas you've made that decision. Now, if somebody calls you tomorrow and says, Ral, I'm going to pay you $1 million to come and speak in Phoenix, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, I will.
And you're set up and able to do that.
Yes,
not an
I'm
issue.
set up and able to do it. It's just,
So,
I'm not.
so it's not sunk cost, really.
No.
That investment has actually worked.
Yes,
What you're not doing is applying energy, focus and time any further on getting yourself to proactively find work in America.
Yeah, so going back to the financial term is that sunk cost. It can't be recovered, but it's irrelevant to future decisions. Now, so it's like you said, it's not saying I'm never going to work in America again, but it's irrelevant.
Your time,
My
energy
time.
and focus is being divested somewhere else.
Absolutely.
Hey, I reckon leaders holding on to bad strategies or bad team members could also be a good example of sunk cost fallacy, right?
Yep.
So, I've done it, defending bad decisions because we've invested so much. Now, lead marketers get big budgets. those budgets are always scrutinised because everybody in the business says, well, the colouring in department doesn't need $2 million for an advertising campaign. And so defending something. So I learned early on, test and learn. Yeah?
Yeah.
So before you go and sink a whole lot of investment, time, money and effort into maybe a major campaign in this case, what we'll do is a quick test to see whether we get what we think we're going to get from this investment,
Right.
and then use that to determine whether we go forward. And some of the most
That's the whole concept too of agile.
correct
90 days.
iterations, small
iterations.
sprints, exactly right. Some of the best leaders I've ever worked for have quickly and openly admitted defeat.
Yep.
This was a strategy I thought was going to work. Things changed geopolitically, economically, or the actual business itself strategy has changed. So we're going to call it here.
Yep.
And I remember thinking that takes a lot of courage because you've got to send that up to the board.
Yep.
Yep.
I think it would absolutely apply in business when you've made a new recruitment. So especially if there's senior appointments where
We've all
you've
done
paid
that.
a headhunter.
Oh, boy.
And you think
Or
you
brought in someone
on-
or that you have a relationship
Yep.
with, and that hasn't worked out.
Yeah,
That's tough.
So the
It's
reality
personal.
is you've spent a lot of money getting this person in, and it becomes pretty clear
They're not
that
right.
they're not right. Embracing sunk cost fallacy is just getting rid of them and going, okay, well, that's a sunk cost. Whatever you paid the headhunter, for example, that's sunk. You're never going to get that back.
No.
It should, therefore,
And
it's
there is a learning,
irrelevant
and
to
there is a
future
learning
decisions.
from this. So use the learning. There's the win from the investment,
Yeah.
or the sunk cost.
Yeah.
Is the learning.
Yeah.
Hey, what about career paths that no longer fit? I know people that have
Yeah.
studied law for 6 years and then turn up to become a lawyer after 5 years. Say, I can't do this job. I hate it. I never wanted to be a lawyer. I actually did it because that's what my father wanted me to do.
That's another great example because they're doing.
Oh, I'm full of
it
great
was like, oh my
examples,
God,
Ral.
You are full of it. That's
Full
for
of it.
sure. Absolutely full of it. But again, but I've spent all this money getting this, degree. And so
studying
it would be
this field.
stupid not to use it. And we're going, no, it would be stupid to do it just because you've spent the money in it.
And again, if you've studied law and you've become an expert in legal practice but don't enjoy being a lawyer, you can still use your expertise.
Yeah.
It just doesn't mean to say you need to do it every day, particularly if it's making you miserable.
Yeah.
So keeping it real would be about giving yourself permission to evolve, right? Even if it feels like you're wasting previous effort, and nothing's ever wasted, as we just said.
no,
it
it's
builds
not
you.
wasted.
You
Yeah.
learn from it.
Yeah.
Be courageous and give yourself permission to walk away. Hey, toxic loyalty, another one, right?
Ooh.
Loyalty to a company, to a boss, even a personal brand identity, yeah? But I'm known as a banker, as a consultant, as a coach, as a keynote speaker. That can sometimes become a trap, yeah? And again, because a lot of it is what you think others want of you.
Good point.
Okay, so Bronnie Ware.
You're going deep there,
I
Jack
tell you what, the
Phillips.
coffee's kicking in now. Bronnie Ware, remember I've told you about her? Palliative nurse, Australian palliative nurse, wrote a book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying.
Oh,
and
yes.
the biggest regret, no, it's not, I should have worked less. That's regret number 2. Regret number 1, I should have lived the life I wanted for myself, not what others wanted for me. And this comes back to this toxic loyalty, right? Loyalty to a personal brand identity. But I'm known as, but I don't actually want to be that. Or I've changed, or I've evolved. So honouring your journey without actually chaining yourself to it.
Ooh. Repeat that. That's good.
Honouring your journey without chaining yourself to it. I think you and I have been okay at this, yeah?
Yeah,
Whereby
definitely.
we've said we've loved our time in banking.
Yeah.
I've loved my time as a marketer. You loved your time in IT.
Yep.
But it was a time.
It was a time.
And then we evolved and we
Yeah.
tried something else and we've applied our skills and learned and trained and developed and done different things.
I often have people, especially when I first left, I mean, this is 20 years ago now, but it would say, I go, oh my God, I love what I'm doing. They go, do you wish you had have left earlier? It was like, no, because the time was right when I left. And the skills I learnt probably in the last 3 years in my corporate job are the most relevant to what I'm doing now. So
How cool.
but to me, the timing was right.
cool.
Absolutely.
Here's one more, a fear of starting over when it comes to embracing sunk cost fallacy, yeah? So, if I leave, I'm going to have to start from scratch. Nobody
No.
ever starts from scratch.
You're not starting from scratch.
You're starting from experience.
Yeah. Do you find in your role when you coach people, the older they are, the more that's common that they go, can I be bothered starting over?
Yeah. Yep, I do. And a lot of that, and we've covered this in a former episode, is the fear of learning something new.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
The fear of what if I don't get it? What if I'm not relevant anymore? Well, there's a good chance you won't be if you're not embracing new learnings, new tech, new ideas. So I think it is a bit of a trap for people that have been, invested in something for a long time. I think you're really right about that. When I think about innovation, Ral, and gosh, you don't have to look too far. There's so much innovation around us today thanks to technology. And organisations or leaders like Netflix. Netflix never started off as a TV streaming platform. It was a DVD rental business.
I actually learnt that the other week. I was listening to something and I did not know
I
that.
have told you that. We've spoken about that in former. I run an innovation workshop.
Maybe
and that's
I learnt it off
key case study. It's a beauty.
So they used to send out DVDs.
At DVDs. It was a way. So people got sick of having to pay late fees on DVD.
Oh, right,
no one ever took their DVDs back on time. You'd forget or whatever. So they said, I know how to fix that. People pay us a subscription and they can get out as many DVDs as they want and there's no late fees.
It's genius.
It was genius. Oh, Airbnb didn't start off as an apartment rental, or home rental sort of business. It was very much about just a couple of guys wanting to rent out a room, during a busy time in San Francisco, so that they could get some money in while they come up with a big idea.
Yeah.
So the sunk cost fallacy actually applies to so much.
No. So yeah, and you're right. You're never starting from scratch. We've talked a lot about career. To me, sunk cost fallacy can be as simple things as finishing a book or talking about Netflix, finishing a bloody Netflix series. How many times do you go, this is just
bullshit.
This is crap, this series, but I've watched 8 and there's only 6 more episodes and we hope it gets better.
Yeah.
And it was just
hope is not a strategy. Same as reading a book. I agree.
I just go read a book and then go, nah, it's not. I would not finish most books.
No. I go to the back page and always read the last couple of paragraphs to see whether it's going to, it finishes in a way that might want to hold me. But I'm with you. I wonder too whether as you get older and time becomes more finite, that you go, well, actually, I don't want to waste time on watching 6 more episodes of something that's shit. And it's interesting, isn't it? Every now and again, we'll start a Netflix series and the advice from friends who might have recommended it is it starts slow or the first couple of episodes aren't that great, but just stick with it.
Yeah.
And I always think that's good advice, right? So I go, okay, so if by episode 4, and I've put in 4 hours now, there's my sunk cost, I am not jumping out of my skin with joy and I'm not thinking about these characters. I'm out of here.
Yeah. But someone might go, my God, the end is really amazing. Okay, you maybe watch it. So go to the end. There is a fine line too with sunk cost fallacy because we're not saying just quit at the first moment. And for example,
good point.
And again, not going back to my metaphor about the
ladder
the ladder, but say for example you're doing a 3-year degree, and you realise. You might go, the first 6 months you go, actually, this is not for me. Get out. I'd say get out.
Change.
If you're in the last semester and you've got one subject to go and you've decided, actually, I don't think this is right for me, I would say finish it.
Couldn't agree more.
It's one subject.
You can't be that close
because
and
now
not complete.
You've at least got a degree.
Correct.
And it may, like we said, people become lawyers and they may never study law, but you've got a degree that's probably going to
be useful in some way. But it also shows that you're not a quitter. You have been able to finish when you're that close. I agree. I totally agree. And I think harder to tell somebody, look, first 6 months it wasn't me, so I got out. Oh, that's impressive. Okay, you know what you want, You're aligned to your values. As opposed to, I only have one more sort of unit to go, but I just couldn't be bothered or I changed my mind. And you go, really? So I think you're right. I coach people that sort of say to me, I'm really unhappy in my role. I've got to leave. I can't do one more day. And we start talking. I understand that they've got 6 months left and they get long service leave. And I say, surely we can get you through 6 months.
Yes.
How many holidays have you got? What about some sick leave? I mean, if it's that bad. But really, there is a little something. There's a reward at the end of this. Long service leave, you'll get an additional payment. That could go towards the development of your next career phase or whatever it is. Yeah. So I think it is about being a bit smart.
Okay,
strategic.
So let's give a few tips.
Yeah,
because how do you know whether it's the right decision or the wrong decision? So take us through some tips.
Okay, so the first thing you should do is ask yourself, would I make this same decision today knowing what I know now? Yeah. So if the answer is no, then that's a clue you're staying because of past investments, sunk cost, fallacy. And it's probably not the current reality or your future potential. So what you want to do is not cling to the past and very much think about living in the present, okay? So would I make the same decision today knowing what I know now? That's an important question to ask yourself. Number 2, and you spoke about this before when we were talking about actually defining sunk cost. Sunk cost is an accounting term and it's very much based on data, whereas what we've been talking about is very emotional, yes? So being able to separate emotion from evaluation. Separating emotion from evaluation. Acknowledge the emotions, pride, guilt, fear, embarrassment, but then make decisions based on facts and future possibilities, not feelings about what's already been spent. So it's okay to feel sad, but don't let sadness steer the ship.
Yeah, like that.
The other one is reframe starting over as starting smarter.
Ooh.
Thought you'd like that one.
I do like that one.
Starting smarter. You're not starting over.
No, you're
starting smarter. Everything you've done so far isn't wasted. It's experience you carry forward. You're not at square one. You're at a new starting line with better shoes.
Oh.
How's that, eh?
God, you're bloody pulling out some zingers today.
Real growth often looks like a pivot, not a straight line. We spoke about careers not being linear, right? So there's the 3 tips I've got.
Yep,
I thought I had some more, but I think that's them.
3
and I
tips
think
is
those
good.
are pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Hang on. No. I have got one more, yeah. Set a future you test. This is a good one.
Okay.
I knew I had another one. Imagine yourself 1 year from now. Will staying on this path make you grateful or resentful? Will staying on this path make you grateful or resentful?
Yeah.
So I have been a big part of a couple of people recently I've been coaching who have absolutely quit something and made a completely 360-degree turn.
That would be a 180. Oh, no, they've gone right back
completely.
to 180?
Well, not
or 360.
Well,
Did they come back to where they started? Because that's 360.
Okay. God, maths genius here. A 180-degree turn. The point is that they've absolutely got out of something where there was a lot of investment, a lot of time, a lot of effort, and they knew deep down it wasn't right, and they knew deep down for some time it wasn't right.
Yeah.
They just needed the permission.
Yeah.
And I guess somebody to say, you can do this, because it takes a lot of courage, right? To
that's
say, I'm out of here and I'm actually going to go over here and do something on my own or quite different or retrain or whatever.
Yeah.
But they are 10 times happier. And of course, their time, effort and focus has gone into the new part thing and they are thriving.
I like that last one. I'm glad you found that 4th tip. Just to go back to my ladder analogy, because if you're on a good metaphor, stick with it.
Never met a good metaphor. I didn't love.
But it was like, remember we said there's 12 rungs on the ladder, and you're at rung 10 or 11, and you realise the ladder's on the wrong wall. If you keep getting a year's time, and you go, no, I'm going to go to the top of the ladder. In a year's time, you reach the top of the ladder, but if it's still on the wrong bloody wall,
it's the wrong wall.
You're on the wrong wall, and it would be resentment.
It would be resentment.
It would be like, why didn't I make that decision a year ago?
That's exactly right. So set a future you test. I think that's a really good one. Yeah,
that's great.
All right.
Okay, excellent job. Hope you liked.
Ral, you came up with this one, and I like it a lot.
Oh, well, I came up with it, and you brought all the knowledge about it. So. I'm an
just
ideas
a bit of research. You're the big picture girl.
I'll come up with the idea.
You're the big picture girl.
You do all the work and the research. Keepers, if you like this, as usual, give us a 5-star rating and share it with your friends. Perhaps share it with people that you think are
in need.
In need, or on the wrong ladder, on the wrong wall.
In the ladder. All right.
Digging a hole. They keep digging a hole.
5 stars.
5 stars, of course. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
You've been listening to another episode of Keeping It Real with Jac Ral. If you like what you've heard, don't forget to tell others about it and give a 5-star review. They may seem confident, but they really are sensitive 5-star needy souls. Yeah, right. Keeping It Real, created by Jack Phillips and Gabriel Dolan. Produced by Keehlan Ferrari-Brown. And this really real voiceover, spoken by Richard Phillips.